is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here, Dean7904. If you want to get all technical, that is the daily fantasy handle. Of course, we have Head Chopper, returning champion. It's an intimate show, just the two of us, Chop. You're stuck with me for the next hour and 15 minutes until we yield to crunch time. SquirrelPatrol has graduated from crunch time. Graduated from GrindersLive to crunch time. He'll be on later, as well as TJ Zwarych is going to hold it down. He'll be playing the role of Kevin Roth and Taylor Smith. Also jumping in, Chop. How are things in your world? Just another interesting slate where it's just kind of split in half, right? A 7-gamer, 3 early, 4 late. We have kind of an intermission in the middle, kind of sort of somewhat. And there is not a ton of injury information up in the air right now. There's certainly some stuff that's already been established. Brooklyn's pretty thin. We saw Ben Simmons get shut down for the season. I hope you're sitting down, Chop. I don't know if you do that. That is shocking news for sure. Cat, this was actually kind of shocking. He has that knee, that meniscus. He's done, at least for a while, there was conflicting reports. But for our purposes, no Cat tonight for Minnesota. The biggest name that's currently questionable, I believe, is Jaylen Brown. Yeah, Lonnie Walker is ill, which kind of matters as well. What definitely matters because he's popping because Brooklyn is so thin. And if he sits out, Brooklyn obviously will become even thinner. Luka is officially probable. I thought maybe he'd get a Q tag, but he's probable. Good to know. And he also plays early versus Miami. That's the first half of the TNT doubleheader. Chop, it's Thursday. What's up, dude? How are things?
What's up, Dean? Just chilling. Yeah, man, I lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you something, and then I totally forgot when we started talking a lot. But it's going to be a fun day. Little 2-man booth. We're going to knock it out the park. Dang, I've totally spaced out on what I was going to ask you, but I was going to say this for sure. So,
your Houston Cougars beat my UCF Knights. We gave you a little bit of a scare last night.
Well, yeah, I forgot. I had even forgot that you were a UCF guy, but it's just we clinched the Big 12 title, Dean. That was a big monumental thing right there, Dean. So, they said going into the Big 12 the first year like that, no chance. Houston, they're going to get exposed and all that. But yeah, we won the conference, man. So that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for the haters. But yeah, that's fun. We got March Madness coming up. That's going to be fun stuff right there. I love that, man. I love a little extra something on the side right there. And Wemby being out tonight, Dean, and it's not even the second night of a back-to-back. It's a day off in between, and they quickly ruled him out to give him some rest tonight. So I'm licking my lips, Dean. It's juicy because the Spurs play on Monday, and then the second night of that back-to-back next week is the game I want to go to. Boy, if they rule out Wemby nice and early, I'm going to get some cheap-ass tickets, and I love it.
Yeah, I don't believe he made the road trip, so he's probably not going to be is it a quick road trip, just a couple of games there for San Antonio, and they come back, like you said, on Monday, maybe a 2-game road trip? Yeah, I love – you're the only person that wants to, A, watch a Spurs game, and B, does not want Wemby to be there. Or does not want to be wearing a uniform.
I do not want to watch a Spurs game. Let's be clear about that. I'm in it for the Rockets because the Rockets are coming to town finally. I want to watch the Rockets. But yes, I want those cheap tickets, man. I want Wemby out. Good luck to you. You're good and all that stuff. But I want those cheap tickets to see my Rockets.
Tuesday night, I'm seeing it right now. I guess you already took a peek at it. Tickets currently right now, Chop. Their tickets are currently as low as $24. Now that's probably up in the nosebleeds or whatever. But you can get in the building for $24. You gonna hold out, or are you gonna wait for it to get even lower?
I'm waiting till game day, and I'm hoping those court sides drop down, Dean, to a reasonable range. Right now, they're not reasonable, but if Wemby gets ruled out, they will be reasonable.
Have you ever sat like courtside, like front row? Have you sat right in the front row? Like next to the players?
That's why I can't go back to being up in the stands. Like, yes, I went to the Pacers Spurs several years ago, and I got mid-court front row, like row one on the court. I just can't go back.
DK or FanDuel hooked that up, or you splurged?
That was FanDuel. That was FanDuel that hooked that up. I can't go back now, Dean. And so every sporting, and plus the sporting events are better on TV anyway. Typically, although basketball, I can make a case for basketball being pretty decent in person. But yeah, I just everything I go to now, I gotta look for like on the field or on the court. So that's just the way it is, man.
I got one of those. I haven't opened it up yet, but I got one of those Meta Quests. I don't know if you're aware what a Meta Quest is. I think it's the Meta Quest 3.
I've had one for about a year or so.
Have you watched an NBA game on there? Because you can sit virtually. You can sit front row. And I was watching some of the clips on the YouTube. Looks pretty cool. I've yet to open the box, and they're not in every game, but some games they're established with the cameras. It looked pretty awesome.
That's what made me buy it. That's what made me buy it in the first place. It is incredible. It is a jarring experience at first when you get it. It's like you can do the core. I like to put it on the camera. You can switch your cameras if you got the good. I don't know if they do that right now with the new provider, but used to be able to switch the camera and do the one above the backboard. Oh man, that was awesome. The camera above the backboard.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I don't know why I just have not been proactive. I'm gonna open it up and we'll figure it out. We'll talk about it soon enough.
I've been watching too much Pornhub in there, Dean. You got to be careful with that VR. That VR stuff, man.
I don't know anything about that. That's not the reason why we purchased that, to be clear. I was talking to Grant about it, and Grant was the one. He said he had a nice experience watching the basketball, and he's like, yeah, we can sit next to each other virtually, which Grant was excited at the prospect of sitting next to me. You could imagine. I'm a blast, right? So I purchased it, but I've yet to actually open it up. And maybe the three of us, we'll all coordinate. Maybe with the RG community, we all can sit up the front row. We'll figure it out one of these nights, Chop. You excited about the prospect of that?
Yeah, that sounds about as exciting as Blender's sweat show back in the day.
What was Blender's sweat show? I don't know if I remember his sweat show. And how was that different?
That's the point. Like you kind of got to go there and just do it, serve your time. But yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
All right. Do you want to say what's up to the chat? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Help us keep the proverbial lights on. We do appreciate that. And you know what? I want to say hello to Derek. Derek in chat's hanging out. Specifically Derek. And you know why I'm calling him out, Chop? Because he called me out on Thursday. We're doing this thing where if you challenge me, I sent out a tweet. You respond to the tweets. You say, hey, I want to take you on head to head. You take me on head to head, Chopper. You beat me head to head. You get your choice of 1 week free of RotoGrinders Premium, all the bells, all the whistles, all the tools, everything you think of. You can get Chop's articles, Squirrel's articles, the expert survey, everything you can think of. Football, baseball, basketball, PGA, MMA. The only thing that's its own little entity is NASCAR. Or you can get swag. You can get your choice of like a hat or an RG T-shirt or RG socks if you want. If you want to be super contrarian, you can just get the socks, whatever you want. But I do want to wish Derek the best of luck. We tried this during football, and it didn't really work out with us so well. Was it football or baseball? I was taking the small sample size, but I was crushing the competition. But yeah, good luck to Derek. Going forward, we're going to be doing this on Thursdays. That is the plan. Every single day, we're doing some sort of giveaway. Some days we spin the wheel. Some days we do the movie game. We're going to do that on Monday. That unfortunately did not work out spectacularly because the chat was too sharp. They just basically ruined the game because they guessed it right away. Derek says he will not be choosing the socks. Yeah, the socks are super contrarian, but I hear they are comfortable. Did you get the socks, Chop? Did you get a whole new batch of RG gear? And if yes, did the socks come with it? I think that's the new hat.
I got a few items they sent me, and one of them was the socks. And they're not my style of socks, but they're fine. They're comfortable. It's not really my style, but they're fine. They're comfortable if you were into that. If you're into that style, yeah.
Producer Devin and producer Steve were both standing for the socks. They were very much on it. So it's interesting to hear. You said just not your style for whatever reason, just not for you. But everything's not for everyone.
Socks are a peculiar thing, Dean. Like when I'm lounging around the house, I typically like the lower socks, the ankle socks. They protect my feet from the floor. I don't step on all the sticky stuff my kids leave behind, and that's my. I don't really want them to ride up too far on my calves or my ankles, too far up. So, and the RG socks, but some people like that. So if you like that, it's all good. What's the poll question today? Is it about socks? Is it about steakhouses? I know we were having a conversation about steakhouses. What is?
What it might be? You know what it might be, Chop? Do most people wear socks inside their own house? I don't know if that's. I think that's pretty split. I'm curious. Is that you said you're inside the house wearing socks, a certain particular type of sock? I don't always wear socks in the house. Typically, I don't. Depending on, but is that weird to not wear socks in your own house? Producer Steve, feel free to make that happen. That feels like a pretty interesting poll question. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. But Chop, you're adamant. You're always wearing socks in house.
I will preface this, Dean, by telling you that for many years I was the slipper guy inside the house all the time. Like, I had to do and I still got slipper. Slippers are for after the shower at nighttime when I don't want to put on any more socks. But I used to wear them all. I used to not wear socks in the house at all. But it was always it's never bare feet in the house. It's just not, unless you got all carpeting, which you shouldn't have these days. So I had to switch it up, and during the daytime, I had to do the socks and not the slippers, because the slippers you go through them pretty quick if you're wearing them all day and all night. You know what I'm saying, Dean? Because they can get a little funky in there. So I changed it up and I just did the socks.
Yeah,
flip-flops, slippers, man.
Flip-flops and slippers, and there's another word
that's way different. That's way different.
Like the soccer ones, you know what I'm talking about. There's probably another word that I can't quite think of it. The poll is in chat: socks, barefoot, slippers, shoes. If you're wearing shoes in house, like seriously, what do we do?
Oh man,
I can't imagine.
You can't come to my house if you. I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna, try to say it without saying it. Please take your shoes off at the door if you come into my house. I don't need all that. Like, please, man, that's no.
Yes. I remember many, many years ago, I went to Pepsi's house and I got yelled at for not. I wasn't thinking about it, but yeah, he's like, they made a point to point out that you got to take the shoes off at the door. Slides. Yeah. In the chat, they're saying, slides is another word that I was kind of thinking of. They're all kind of synonymous. But all right. Give me the big picture here as far as today's slate. I did run some recent optimals, taking a peek at what we're getting. Obviously, Wemby is out tonight, so a fair bit of Spurs. They're kind of unreliable as a team. They got a chance to get blown out against the Kings. Kings are playing the back half of a back-to-back. They traveled as well. Not a lot of travel. Sacramento from LA. Most popular player in the DK slate, and this really matters as far as Zach Collins' price, the difference in price. He's way too cheap on DK. FanDuel, you certainly can play him, but he's not like a lock and load over there on FanDuel. He's going to be the guy that steps in and plays center for Wemby. Probably plays about 28 to 30 minutes or so. Good fantasy point minute player. No cat. So slow-mo, Kyle Anderson is projecting really, really well. He's like a cash game lock, at least at this point right now as things stand. And the Brooklyn stuff, if your name is Cam, you're not playing for Brooklyn tonight, no Cam Thomas. Also, Lonnie Walker is questionable, the fourth. And if he doesn't go, they really, really get thin. I mentioned Cam Thomas out, Cam Johnson also out, Daron Sharp, the backup five, also out. So Brooklyn should be thin as well. You want to give me a screenshot, an overview? Phoenix looks pretty good against Toronto in the absence of Booker. So it's pretty straightforward, like what's like good pre-flop, the way I'm seeing it.
There's a lot of big injuries that are going to open up some value plays that look pretty good on paper, and also what's really going to open up is a lot of mid-tier guys who are going to jump now. So I think you can do just about whatever you want with this slate. It's going to be about I think the end question is going to be Luka and a cheaper piece or two really good mid-range guys. Everything else, I think, kind of builds itself depending on what kind of contest you're playing.
Yeah, Luka, not the greatest matchup in the world against Miami, but I don't care. Luka is ridiculous. I'll play him against anybody. Early results, by the way, in the poll, it's pretty well split. Do you wear socks in your house or go barefoot? 35% socks, 30% barefoot. That's pretty split. And slippers. And slippers, again, that's under the, flip-flops, slides, Crocs, whatever. I think that's all under the same umbrella. And then 10%. 10% of y'all are lunatics that wear shoes in the house. Seriously, what are we doing? Okay. And feel free to, vote for that in the chat. And as you're voting, again, if you have the ability to vote, you have the ability to hit the like button, do with that as well. And hey, subscribe so you know when we go live as well. All right, Chop, anything else before we kind of dive in and talk about the slate game by game? Again, it's pretty interesting when it comes to when the games are being played out. It's a 7-gamer, 3 early, 4 late, 7:30 to 9 o'clock break. The only player right now up in the air, there's 2 meaningful players up in the air, Jaylen Brown and Lonnie Walker. Agbaji's also questionable too. I suppose I shouldn't completely ignore him. He has been starting for Toronto, and I guess it would open some stuff up. Nawara, possibly. Dick might get a few more minutes. I haven't fully thought this one through. Freedom Liberty is a person who would get some run. I don't know if he would be usable, but he would probably get a few more minutes there for Toronto. But, anything else we should mention, or shall we just dive in and figure it out?
Yeah, we're going to dive in, but I just did want to point out with Lonnie Walker being questionable, Lonnie Walker the fourth, his dad is actually Lonnie Walker the third. It's just not a Ricky Council the fourth situation where Ricky Council's brothers are also Ricky Council 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Lonnie Walker actually has a lineage of Lonnie Walkers in his family, and that's why he's the fourth.
Okay. I thought that was an important note. I would not. We could not have powered through. We just start. I think that's worth noting. I'm pulling up his Wikipedia page now as well to see. Did his father play ball somewhere? You said
I believe his father was an athlete. Yes, his father was an athlete. And Dean, I'm just for future reference. I mean, you can do what you want, but if you really want facts on something, don't go to Wikipedia, man. It's guys like Kirk D sitting in there all day just making shit up.
Walker has a dog named Zola who appeared with him in a PETA ad campaign, reminding people not to leave their dogs in hot parked cars. Well, there you go. He's a dog guy. You gotta like him now. Okay. Let's Chop. You got a family dog, right? I assume. Maybe not.
Correct. Yeah, we got a family dog.
Oh yeah, didn't the kids have to get a certain grade level to get a dog? Wasn't that the deal?
We didn't get that dog. That's for sure.
That dog is somewhere in the pound because your kid didn't feel like studying.
Hey, listen, if you don't enforce what you say, then what's the use of saying it in the first place, Dean? You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. All right. The very first game that we're going to be talking about tonight, it is the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Detroit Pistons. 216 is a total. Not a very high total, and Brooklyn is just a 3-point favorite here, taking on Brooklyn. Oh no, Brooklyn's taking on Detroit. I think Detroit's lost like 16 games in a row. Is that right by my count off the top of my head? I've not seen the official count. It's been bad. I think they're still stuck on nine W's. We kind of talked about it as far as who's in and who's out. Brooklyn super thin. No Cams, no Cam Thomas, no Cam Johnson. They both have ankles, so they can't play. And Ben Simmons, he's got the back, so he's out for the season. Daron Sharpie's continually getting rolled out with his wrist, not playing basketball tonight. And Lonnie Walker is questionable. He's ill. Detroit just without Quentin Grimes. I didn't know this, but the Pistons signed Taj Gibson, which is hilarious. Good for them. Good for Taj, I guess. But I want to see if we have an if-then set up for Lonnie Walker, because I know we have some if-thens, and that one does seem to matter. We do. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but I'll throw it to you as far as your thoughts of Brooklyn versus Detroit.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty big one. Like if Lonnie Walker plays, he's going to jump in all the optimals, like everything, right? He's going to be one of the higher owned guys on the entire slate. And if he doesn't play, in addition to Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, Daron Sharp was ruled out earlier. Like there's a lot going on here, right? Like these guys could be down to just one of your favorite things where they're only down to like 7 guys to suit up or whatever.
Sure.
So like if Lonnie Walker gets ruled out, if he's in or if he's out, regardless, that's a huge piece to this slate. If he's in, you got that cheap guy jumping in all the optimals that's going to probably do pretty well. And if he's out, then you can probably play 4 Brooklyn people, to be honest with you. So that's a big one.
Would you play 4 Brooklyn guys? I don't know if I'd play 4. That seems like a lot.
If Lonnie Walker is out, then yes, I would definitely consider it. I mean, Detroit is Detroit, Dean. What do you not like about playing against Detroit? It's that they're usually going to get blown out and you're not going to get you guys. Well, if Brooklyn's down to like 6 guys, 7 guys, I don't think they're going to be a blowout either way. So you would get all your minutes and you get some good players. There's some good players over there that can produce on fantasy wise. So yeah, I think if Lonnie gets rolled out, it would be a pretty big factor there. So
I'm saying they'd have 10 available, by the way. If Lonnie's out, they would have Schroeder, Bridges, DFS, Claxton, whoever starts for Lonnie, which would probably be Jalen Wilson. That seems like the most likely guy to jump in there. And their bench would be DSJ, Watford, the backup big, Noah Clowney, Keon Johnson, and KBD, Bates Diop. So they still have 10 guys.
Those guys, most of those guys stink, though, right? They really stink.
Well, most of the entire team stinks.
And Brooklyn is not tanking. Let's put that out there. This is not a tank situation. They absolutely have no reason to tank. So they would run Mikal Bridges, Claxton, Schroeder, and DFS for like 40 minutes, I think. I think those other guys are like, give them a minute rest here and there, and that's it. But I think you legit have about 4 or 5 guys who would get the absolute brunt of all the minutes against the Detroit team that's bad, if Lonnie Walker's out. So that's the if then for me. But yeah, I think Brooklyn's pretty appealing. I like Mikal Bridges anyway. I like Schroeder anyway.
Yeah.
Lonnie Walker, if he plays, looks fantastic. Everybody's writing him up today. He's in Notorious's core article, and all the other tags, or a lot of tags on Lonnie Walker. So Brooklyn's going to get a lot of steam anyway. And on the flip side, I think Detroit's got Oscar Thompson is, I think, a fine play. He's still got a great price tag on. He's got a great price tag on DraftKings. Not as good on FanDuel, but that DraftKings tag is pretty good. And you could always play Cunningham and Duren in this kind of a matchup. So it's an interesting game, Dean.
So if we get Walker out, there will be 5 positive DK values: Bridges, Claxton, Wilson, Schroeder, DFS in that order, and DSJ would be a slightly a negative value. At FanDuel, they would also, the best one would be Jalen Wilson, $1 for $1. Claxton, then Bridges, then DFS, and then Schroeder would be a slight negative value, but still certainly plenty playable. My only pushback on Walker is I don't like players. This is like one of my general rules. I don't like players that are super reliant on scoring, that are going to be popular, especially if they're ill. And we've seen there's no way of gauging this. We've seen players several times. A couple times this week we've seen it. We saw it with Keontae George. We saw it with Campaign. Just they're gutting through it. They're doing their best. Keontae George he tapped out after 6 minutes. Like, I can't. It's just not happening. And I'm not helping the team. I don't know how ill he is. I have no clue. So if he gives it a go and it doesn't work out, like, again, if he's going to be crazy popular, currently he's only 23% on DK, which I thought he'd be a little bit higher. So that's not a huge number. We'll see. That stuff can change. Still got an hour and a half to figure it out. But yeah, Walker, Bridges, Claxton, Schroeder all look good. I just don't know if I'm playing more than 3. But I hear, all individually, they're all spectacular plays. Your favorite player in Detroit is who? I think you kind of talked about Oscar Thompson.
Yep, yeah. He's my favorite just because it's an all-around game, and he doesn't need to. I mean, he's the opposite of scoring dependent. He can do everything, and I don't think it's a very tough matchup against Brooklyn, especially this shorthanded like this. And and he's got that cheap price tag on DraftKings. That's my favorite Detroit player. But like I said, I would not. I don't hate Cade Cunningham. Don't hate Duren. I'm not a huge Jaden Ivey guy, and I'm probably not going Isaiah Stewart or Fontecchio. I'm seeing Fontecchio's name in chat. That's not for me. That's not my kind of play. But Thompson, well-rounded game. I'm good with that.
I like taking shots on Duren. So he's interesting for tournaments. And again, the absence of Simmons, the absence of Sharp could really push up the minutes. Again, especially if they lose another body, but really push up the minutes for Claxton. So I think he's pretty interesting as well. He might be my favorite amongst the Brooklyn guys. Ownership-wise, he's a little bit less too than Bridges, a little bit less than Walker as well. Anything else we should say as far as Brooklyn and Detroit? Derek is saying Walker is the illest.
Is that good or bad?
What's that?
Is that good or bad? Is being the illest, is that good or bad? You're gonna have to help me.
You got to enlighten me, Chop. I think it's a good thing, but if you take it literally, it's not a good thing. Mikal Bridges is a bum, according to Gabriel in the chat. Well, I think he's whatever you want. I think he's definitely playable in this game. Certainly he's burned people, but everybody, you can't be the never again guy. Do you have anybody officially on the never again list? You can't be that guy. You can't be, because you play this every single day. And if you had that list for real, then you'd end up with nobody the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come across some guys who would be on that list. But Mikal Bridges, yes, while he's kind of, he started out like a ball of fire when he went to Brooklyn. Man, they should have really traded him when they had him at his highest peak, and they could have got all those first rounders back for Mikal Bridges, and they held on to him. And he's probably not as good as they thought he was, Dean, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But Fat Meat Greasy saying Jeremy Grant on the never again list. Yeah, he's one of those. Whenever I lean into Grant, it never seems to work out. Tobias Harris, like when you expect him to do it, he doesn't seem to do it. The chat's gonna be throwing out some more names now. I imagine it's on their never again list, but I'll still go back to Grant, and it's probably not going to work out. But again, I just don't have the never again list. There's one more game at 7:00. It's Minnesota at Indiana at the Pacers. I don't think we can ignore these 7:00 games as a whole, just because they're great value on Brooklyn. The Minnesota stuff's opening up because if it's a positive matchup against the Pacers, love the pace against Indiana, and Minnesota is going to be without Cat, so no Karl Anthony Towns. McLaughlin's questionable. That doesn't really matter a ton. As far as the Pacers, no Benedict Mathurin, no Dougie Buckets, no Dougie McDermott. 227.5 is a total. Minnesota's a 1.5 point dog here. Gobert certainly gets a boost. Nas looks a little bit more appealing, but it's Kyle Anderson. It's slow-mo. We're expecting him to jump in the starting lineup and just kind of grind his way to like a 7-7-6-3 kind of game. That's good enough and useful. Of course, if you have all the salary, Edwards, the ceiling is the roof for him tonight. It's spectacular. Your thoughts as far as the T-Wolves and the Pacers?
Yeah. So while we're here, Dean, the never again list. I'm gonna crank it up by saying shellfish in Vegas. Never again.
Oof.
I'm never.
Was that like the Vegas vacation $3 buffet? Where did you have it at?
It was a nice It was a nice restaurant, and it was recommended by Dan Bach.
Oh boy,
man! It only takes one bad clam, Dean. It only takes one bad clam out of the full 24, and so never again.
What about just shellfish in general on vacation? That seems like a risk reward.
It depends on where you're at, Dean. If you're in a coastal town, by all means, go for it. If you got a pretty good idea, it's pretty fresh. How can it be so fresh in Vegas? That's kind of like, I don't think so, but
it's not that far from the coast. And Vegas, they find a way to ramp it up.
I don't know about it. I'm just saying that's on my never again list, along with Mexican tap water in Mexico.
That's a known thing, right?
Don't drink the tap.
Revenge.
Well, not for everybody, Dean. You got to live and you got to learn, and you figure these things out along the way, and then it becomes your never again list. So Lonnie Walker's available to play, so that kind of sums up Brooklyn right there. We got Lonnie can play, and maybe one of those other guys, maybe two of those other guys with him, but it's definitely not a four-man thing right now. All right, so for Minnesota's the one that's kind of jumping out with Karl Anthony Towns going out. Anthony Edwards priced up, but he should get a lot of extra run actually, or a lot of extra shots. This is a really good competitive game with a higher pace. Edwards could be. I don't think his ownership matches his potential tonight. Let's put it like that. I think that could be a GPP winner. Rudy Gobert, I don't know. I did some things in the survey today, Dean, and Rudy Gobert without Karl Anthony Towns, very small sample, only a couple games this year, but man, he plays a lot of minutes and he gets a lot of rebounds without Cat competing for those two things. But the caveat there is Indiana's pace can absolutely run him off the court. So you got to be careful.
What? You think that's possible? That's in play tonight?
Sure. Didn't they do that the first time they played this year or something? You have to refresh my memory.
I don't recall, but Cat was probably in that game, so their options could have. So if that's your thought, I assume that like Nas is somebody you're considering as a pivot.
Yeah, well, I said Jaden McDaniels as a possible pivot, but I get Nas is also in play as a GPP shot too. So the Kyle Anderson thing, like, man, that is the chalkiest guy on the entire slate. When has that ever gone wrong, Kyle Anderson? Like, he has good games and it could happen, but there's also you said earlier, Dean, and I mentioned it in the survey today. His nickname is Slow-Mo. A guy named Slow-Mo probably does not want to play in the fast and furious pace of the Indiana Pacers. So there's a chance that could go wrong, or it could go great and the guy could drop 50. I don't know. He's really weird like that. But so I think they're in play. I love Edwards for GPPs. I love Gobert for GPPs. Kyle Anderson is a cash game lock if you're playing that format. In GPPs, I can definitely get away from him and pivot to a McDaniels or Nas Reed. Even a cheapish Mike Conley, especially cheap on DraftKings, is in play there for Minnesota. But I think there's a lot of potential on the Minnesota side. Indiana is what they are. They're pretty priced up. There's not very many injuries on that team right now that are significant, and you're going to have to pay for them against what should still be a pretty good defensive Minnesota team.
Yeah, I was thinking about some runbacks there on the Pacers, and of course, down pace as they typically play against opponents, and the matchup against Minnesota, one of the best defensive teams in all the league. So there's really nothing that kind of jumps out, and I don't want to force any runbacks, but like in big tournaments, sure. And of course, Halliburton can get there. He hasn't quite given you the ceiling much of late. So again, in the big pool, sure, but he's probably not going to be on my main lineup. Probably nobody on my main lineup there. Bo, you mentioned Fast and the Furious. Are you saddened? Are you disappointed to learn that apparently the series is going to end and the 10th one that's coming out at some point, and they're hyping it up as like it's going to be the craziest thing ever. And also, there's going to be like spin-offs, right? It's a license to print money. They're not going to stop doing these. So maybe they're not going. Are they going to kill off Vinny Diesel? Is that's going to happen? Like, I don't know. I know this is just your wheelhouse, Chop.
Nah, they're not going to kill anybody. If they acted like they were going to kill somebody, all they got to do is just bring them back to life, Dean. It happens every show now. That's what makes it so great. We always knew that. Well, I mean, I'm not going to give out any spoilers.
Ross and Rachel died in season 3.
I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but we had somebody came back and revisited the show the last movie.
Oh no, that was like just kind of like a wink and a head. That was just kind of like an homage, wasn't it? I think.
I don't think so, dude. Well, no spoilers. People haven't seen it yet, but we always knew as fans. You always knew this next movie was the last one in this particular set of movies, and that 9 and 10 are kind of like 1A and 1B. They left us with a little cliffhanger there in number 9.
I haven't seen the last one.
So they left you with a little cliffhanger. You knew it was coming. So I'm ready. I'm ready for that particular saga to end, and then we move on to some. Listen, Dean, respectfully to everybody in that cast, it just really wasn't the vibe was still good. It was all right, but it wasn't the same without Paul Walker. You needed that Paul Walker there, man. So it's unfortunate.
It was a good run, though. It was, and it wasn't like the most recent one. They went to space. Like after you go to space, like what's left, right? Wasn't space the last one? Or am I making this up?
Well, that was a couple ago, and that was Tyrese and Ludacris, and they did like an old car, and they made it into a spaceship. It could happen. I'm not like
it could
happen, and so I'm not saying nothing about it. I thought it was very entertaining to watch Tyrese in space. He's the levity of the show. He's the jokester, man. I like it.
All right. Anything else we should mention here as far as Minnesota?
Oh, Indiana? Shit. Here comes Bobby Gomes with his fast. We mentioned Fast and Furious, and he jumps in here, and
he doesn't like it.
I don't think he likes it.
But he hate watches it. Like he pays for it. He'll order it on pay-per-view or whatever, on demand. I guess pay-per-view is an old-timey term.
Did you see that? Did you see that picture in Slack of Bobby Gomes with Taylor Swift? That was amazing.
I did see that. His doppelganger out there. We're not aware. I wasn't aware he existed. Now you're getting Bobby in trouble, but it wasn't really with Taylor Swift. Bobby says he's ordering movies on pay-per-view because he's not cheap, but he's ordering movies he's going to hate. It's like he's setting himself up for failure. That's the process I don't understand. Why would you order something knowing you're going to hate it? That's just very strange. But, to each his own. Anything else here? Minnesota, Pacers, moving on? Yes?
I think we covered it.
Okay, so there's one more game in the early window. This is the front half of the TNT doubleheader. My Miami Heat are going to Dallas. 229 is a total, pretty big total there for a Miami game. Let's see, we got a 4-point favorite in the Mavs. We're expecting Luka to be good to go. No issues there. Miami did sign Patty Mills just for fun. Okay. No Tyler Hero. He's out. No Kevin Love. They did lose Josh Richardson for the season. As far as Dallas, otherwise, Maxi Kleber. He's got that knee. He's good to go. So Dallas should be 100% fully healthy. Lots of options. I saw there's rumblings out there, them potentially messing with their starting lineup. We'll see if that, maybe we'll know 7 o'clock. We're not really sure. But for Dallas, it's basically, it's Luka or Kyrie, and that's essentially it. If you want to play some PJ Washington, I guess you can. But, I mean, you tell me otherwise. It's pretty front-loaded when it comes to Dallas, especially in this matchup here against Miami. Is that where you're at as well? You kind of mentioned Luka earlier in the show. Luka, Kyrie, and that's kind of it, right? When it comes to the Mavs?
Yeah, Luka's awesome, and you can play that. And if he drops one of those 80-point games, which he does, then you kind of got to close your laptop if you don't have him. And that's just the way it is because his ownership is so high, and he can put up those big numbers. So You got that, and then Kyrie, yeah, that's good too. The only other guy for Dallas I even vaguely want in my player pool and have right now is PJ Washington, only because he's starting to pick it up a little bit in Dallas. He was really bad when he first got there, and they worked him in, and now he's up to, last 3 games, 35, 36, 37 minutes, lots of minutes. They need that inside presence. So he's playable, but, yeah, I probably won't go to it today. So that's where I'm at with Dallas. And Miami, yeah, on the road here, Jimmy Butler's fine. It seems like a pretty good game. And in games like this, Jimmy Butler seems to do pretty well. Like profile.
Is he getting
game.
up for Dallas? Are you getting up for this game?
Yeah, I think he is. It's a nationally televised game. So, and it's a competitive game. I can see Jimmy Butler having a good game. And, Bam is okay. He's obviously better. He's priced up, and he was better when they had injuries, but he's fine. Terry Rozier getting back into the swing here after that. He's not great, but like 4 straight games of 30-plus points on DK. And what is the price tag? 66 is a bit much. 67 on FanDuel relative to the salary cap. 67 on FanDuel is better than 66 on DK. You can play that. And the rest of those guys are really hit or miss, and I'm not taking a chance on those guys.
Yeah, I just sort of question like how much beyond the 30, 35, 36 points he can go for Rozier. That's
he's got a good matchup tonight. Like defensively, he should really be able to exploit one of these guys.
Kyrie or Hardaway.
Or Luka. Yeah. Luka does not play defense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just a tick too expensive for me. Good matchup for rebounding, by the way. You mentioned Bam, decent shot to get that double-double. You kind of need a double-double. You're gonna pay for Bam. But Dallas, one of the worst rebounding teams in all of basketball, at 4th or 5th or so when it comes to rebounding percentage-wise. Anybody in the chat want us to talk about? We're happy to do that. Feel free to join the conversation and, help influence the show. Make it better. Why not? They're still talking about Fast and the Furious. So, they're a little bit behind on that, I suppose. But I don't have much else as far as Miami and Dallas. I think it's pretty clear, like, who I'm considering and who I'm not considering. Jimmy Butler, sure. Yeah, if I land on that, not angry. Bam is really low owned, currently at 3-4% on DK. So that's an interesting tournament play. And the Dallas stuff, really, really straightforward. Luka, Kyrie, maybe PJ Washington. Casey Smith saying Duncan Robinson playable. Maybe. Obviously you're at the mercy of 3-point variance. You're also you're catching him at the height of his price. I know Hero's out. They don't like to play him and Hero a ton together. So the minutes, we're looking at 34 as a projection. That's a really big number. It's a healthy number. But there's no guarantee he sticks around if he's not hitting his threes. But I don't mind it. I don't hate it. But just, again, he's really got to hit his threes.
Yeah, we're dealing with a salary cap. I don't know if you know this about DFS, but there is a salary cap. And typically –
not tiers.
Okay, let's say, let's say you're going to the burger place and, the burger is $4, right?
Whataburger for you, for Texas.
Whataburger, $4. You've done that. You've paid that for a while now. And then all of a sudden you go one day and the burger's $6. You're like, man, I hate that. I don't want to man, I'll buy it, I guess. But man, I hate that. You feel like you're getting ripped off a little bit value-wise. Well, Duncan Robinson was 3 weeks ago was $3,700, right? Now I got to pay that extra $2,000 for him. It just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't make you feel good.
Situations are fluid, but you're making the point. And life is about expectations too. If the burger was always $7 and now it's $6, it's like, oh man, what a deal. Or it's like, well, what's wrong with this burger? Is this a tainted burger?
It's all about perspective, Dean. Where are you at in the perspective? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're coming over from another country that doesn't have burger places, you don't even care. You'd pay the $16 for a burger if you had to, but it's about perspective, man.
My brother brought this up to me the other day. Apparently Wendy's is getting ready to try out dynamic pricing, which my counter to that was basically, guys, depending on the time of day, they would change the prices, which seems kind of interesting. But when is the optimal time? When does somebody crave Denny? I feel like Denny's should hike up their prices at 11:30 at night. Who goes to Denny's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 6? I mean, is that something people do? I don't know. I mean, I don't really go to Denny's, but I feel like that's
you make some dynamic pricing, and they might be spreading it out throughout the day now. People are trying to get the good deals. So yeah, it's interesting. Or you go at 3, you get your burger, and you just wait on it, and you wait to eat it for 3 hours at your house. You don't mind, put it in the warmer for a few hours. That way you got you a $7 burger, but you got it for $3 because you got it early in the afternoon.
Kyle in chat says, is it Wendy's or Denny's? Denny's is the one that should do it. Like Denny's or Waffle House, they should be hiking those prices up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Take advantage. And there's no other options. What are you gonna do? Go to 7-Eleven? Most places, like, well, your options are limited at 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you got a Taco Bell or something like that. But that's the time when you hit people. I'm not saying that you should price gouge. I'm not suggesting that. But if you're gonna do that, right? Like nobody goes to Denny's like at noon. A lunatic maybe who's wearing shoes in their house. Anyways,
ridiculous. Dean, we got time. Speaking of 2 o'clock in the morning waffles, when I first went away to college, Dean, I got my mom hooked me up with like the full. I was living in the dorm and had the meal card, so you could swipe your card and get 3 meals a day. Man, we used to stay up all night. I mean, just force ourselves to stay up and then go get the breakfast at like 5 in the morning, right when they opened, and nobody else was in there, and it was all fresh. And you just pound down all these pancakes, waffles, cereal, everything they had, and then go back to the dorm and just sleep through all your classes. How horrible! I look back on it and I think how horrible I treated my body back then. It was so bad.
You set yourself up for disaster. Yeah. By the way, here's a little fun. Don't pick the 8 o'clock in the morning class. This is like a general thought. I don't know what happens from high school to college, but like high school, it's like you're popping up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have like 6 classes in a row. Like, what? I'm going to class from like 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock all throughout the day. How am I doing that? In college, if I had like 2 classes back to back, I'm like, I am exhausted. This is ridiculous. Why would I book 2 classes back to back? This is too much. Maybe that was just my experience, Chop. I don't know if that was, but I thought it was much trickier to wake up for college than it was for high school.
Yeah, I definitely didn't attend many classes, and that's why my first summer, I was gonna get the probation put on me. Like you just didn't do well in your classes. So the only out was you had to have so many hours during the summer of good grades to make it, and then they would let you come back the next fall. So that summer, man, I had to pound down like 21 hours of classes during the summer. And those classes in the summer are super long because they're short because it's summertime. Man, I was in there all day for like 3 straight months to get my grades up. It was the worst, but I did it, Dean. I plowed through it, man.
And you got a dog as a reward. Maybe. I'm not sure if that was part of the deal. Maybe it was not.
Dean. Don't be rude.
Let's talk about the night games, right? Those are the first 3. We're taking a little bit of break. You want to go to Wendy's, you want to get price gouged, by all means, you got some time to wait until the 9 o'clock start. Out there in Phoenix, 234 is the total. Toronto taking on the Suns, 234 is the total. Suns are 11-point favorites here. We have bodies missing in this one that are pretty important. Booker being the big one there for Phoenix. They're without Josh Okogie as well. Nasir Little and Damian Lee also unavailable. Fringy players, but collectively it matters to some degree. Toronto, the big deal here is they're at Scotty Barnes, not just Scotty Barnes, but Jakob Poeltl. He's got a finger. He might be out for the season. Both those guys might be out for the season. Definitely out tonight. Bruce Brown is out tonight. Agbaji, who we project to draw the start if he's available, he's questionable too. He's got a knee. And then Jalen McDaniels is always questionable, and DJ Carton is also questionable. He is a person who may or may not be playing basketball for Toronto this evening. Yeah, big total. Some interesting pieces here. Kelly O just signed a new deal with Toronto. They just traded for him. A lot of opportunity here for him to shine quickly, a lot of opportunity to shine. Durant, I think, took 34 shots last game. I want to say he missed a ton, but the opportunity was there. We saw Grayson Allen. I think he scored at least 30 or so in the bucket. Opportunity there with the absence of Booker. Nurkic has been on one as well. Nurkic against Kelly O feels like a mismatch. He can just manhandle him inside. I think this is a really interesting game. What's the view as far as Toronto and Phoenix?
Yeah, it's interesting all around. Both sides got very, very playable pieces. Durant's going to be. It always baffles me, Dean, when I see a guy like Durant, who in my mind I'm thinking he just kind of gets lost in the mix. He's 9,700 on DraftKings, and you got guys like Luka ahead of. Like, in what world are you going to try to play Durant instead of Luka? Things like that, and then I look at the ownership and I see Kevin could be theoretically creeping around 20% tonight, and I get it's just a weird thing, but he could be
in the world of the salary cap, though. That's the world. You asked the question.
If you're gonna spend, like, there's so much value tonight, though. Like, but I get it though. I get it. He's in a good spot here, and we're without Booker, and we don't know about Beal's health and all that other stuff. So I understand.
I think he's fine. I think
what I'm
pretty much fully.
Saying is we all have our preconceived conceptions or what we think about it. And for me, Durant got lost, but I look at the ownership and say, well, that's kind of high for this slate. So, but he's in the mix. But I'd be trying to go another route though. Because I'd rather have another star player. But Nurkic looks good, 7,200 on DraftKings. Going to get some good run tonight, extra shots without Booker. Beal, we'll see how that plays out with what did he come back 3-5. So the last game he came back. Last 2 games, he did really well. Okay, he's back in the mix. And he was doing good.
I think he's back.
He was doing good before that injury happened. And then he had to sit out again. He was really starting to find his footing then. So Royce O'Neal is, I mean, if you want to go that route, Grayson Allen was a sneaky good pickup in the offseason. Yeah. I give him credit. So
he works.
You got that going. Yeah, they got some good players over there, but it's Toronto that really jumps out to me. Like, I will jam Emmanuel quickly in tonight if I can. But he's a better price on FanDuel, but I obviously like his projection on either site. But I like Quickly quite a bit. Olynyk, a better price on FanDuel, but you can play him on either side, 40-plus points in 2 of the last 3 games. He's just got that kind of upside. And like you said, I think it goes both ways on the matchup. He could give Nurkic a lot of problems on the offensive end too. So
too quick for him.
Yeah, they could really put up big points on each other. That could be like the 1 versus 1 in your lineup, that I like to kind of like you play a wide receiver versus another wide receiver in the same game in football. Play a guy like Nurkic versus Kelly Olynyk in the same game in basketball. I like to do that with my lineup sometimes. So I think that could be a good matchup. RJ Barrett, a little bit too expensive on DraftKings, but I get it. He's a 40-point projection. He's good. Gary Trent, somebody said in chat, Gary Trent is a never again. Sometimes I'm not going to mark him off the list. Sometimes the guy has good things going for him. You just never know when he gets hot from the outside. I'm not marking him, but I'm not playing him. But I could understand if you wanted to. Rest of them, I could probably do without. But I think it's a good game for some of these individual pieces. That's for sure.
Last 15 games, the Suns are second in pace. The Raptors are 9th in pace. As far as defense, this Toronto defense we talk about all the time, how much they weakened as the season has progressed. Last 15 games, they're the 5th worst defense. It's not good. I think Phoenix is really in a spot to ravage them. If Toronto could hang in there, though, I think it makes for an interesting little game stack. I like both sides of this. If Toronto can stick around, the rotation should be pretty tight. I'm pulling up the ownership stuff as we speak. Let's see. We got 19% for KD, as you kind of referenced. Nurkic at 19%, Beal at 15%. Royce O'Neal, never really somebody you love the roster, but he's kind of like in that slow-mo mode where he's probably not going to kill you. Probably doesn't make you either way. I do like Quickly for a tournament play, but that price is kind of creeped up, but rightfully so, right? 8-4 on DK, but certainly he's got 50+ in his bag. And Kelly O's he can give you that kind of sort of somewhat triple-double, like close to it. He can give you that 9, 8, 9, and a couple stocks. Grayson Allen not getting much ownership, but yeah, his price kind of hiked up based upon his last really, really good game. I want to check the if-then stuff. Will we have anything here for Phoenix? I'm sorry, if Agbaji is out, if anybody kind of spikes up. Nwora would get a 20-point projection, 22 minutes. I think he'd be the one. Is he basically still mid? He's 3.9. Yeah. We're giving 18 minutes to Freedom Liberty, 16 to Porter, the big. Grady Dick would still, I think that's already where he's at, right? 28 minutes. Is that about where he's at right now currently? I think it is. 26, so a couple more being shuffled his way. And again, all this stuff we probably won't know until after the first 3 games have tipped off. I'm scouring the Twitter right now to see anything new coming in. Maxi Kleber, good to go. We expected that with his knee, and Luka's good to go. He's available to play with his ankle. Chop, you got anything else before we move on? Oh, Mr. Richard wants to know if we can play Nurkic and Kelly O together. Well, that's kind of what you were saying. That's what you're laying out. That's something you're interested in doing.
Sure. That's absolutely what I said. Thanks, Mr. Richard.
He just wanted to confirm. That's all.
Yeah.
You say that. All right, fair enough.
Well, I was on the board. I was like right there on the edge, Dean, of making a dick joke, if you know what I mean, like Mr. Butcher. But I did, and then plus we were talking about Grady. But I had some self-control, Dean, and I did not do that. So props to me, Dean, for having some self-control.
Collins Chop, though, who's waking up or going to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning after a 5 o'clock in the morning breakfast after an all-nighter, definitely would have made the joke. But you've since matured, is what's happened, right? I think, maybe. Theoretically.
Some would argue that, but I think definitely I have. It's proof is in the pudding.
I did want to mention the 3-day pass, the combo pass you guys are seeing on the screen. We have the we're showing off the old lineup HQ tool, and like, oh, you get the bells, the whistles, producer Steve showing off the ownership stuff, and you got the tags, everything in there, and you want we reference the shows and the contents and the articles and Squirrel's article and the expert rankings, and there's too much to run down. And if you want to use that stuff at your own leisure, but you don't want to fully commit to a month, I understand that. You can get a 3-day pass, 3-day trial. You get every single sport. The exception there is NASCAR, $19.99. Never been a better time to join the RG community. By all means, go for that. And I know we have discounts if you want to fully commit for both scores and odds. There's a scores and odds promo where you get $10 off the first month, and you get $10 off your first month for premium. I did reference scores and odds, and I should also mention, since we're there, today's squad ride pick. Join the squad ride, hang out with us in the squad ride. We've Andy Means has steered us in the right direction. I think he's won like 3 or 4 in a row. He will pick one pick that he likes from the scores and odds pool of all the options that are out there, and we all play along. We all bet it. We sweat it in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. The scores. That's the live stream chat channel. And I don't know, Chop. Well, I guess you're in Texas, so this is probably not something you can partake in unless you got a guy or like a barber or something, or I don't know if you know somebody that might not be on the up and up. But theoretically, I guess you can't, right? There's no sports gambling there anytime soon.
Well, what's the bet, Dean? It depends on the bet.
Okay, well, it's Henry Jakaharu.
Oh no, Dean. There's these sites out there, Dean, these days that have these things called player props. Then there's a bunch of sites out there that do
Underdog
that. This looks like a player, but those are legal in Texas, so I'm good. I can do this.
Okay, yeah. So we have the under 1.5 block shots, and I think both Dana had this, who does an awesome job for hockey, as well as the hockey model, the prop model, which is also smashing as well. I don't know how to pronounce that dude's last name, Henry Jakaharu. I think the J's are like H's, but I'm not certain. This is not my specialty. But it's on the screen. How about that? It's on the screen, and join the squad. I bet the under earlier today, and and again, Andy has been on a heater. Overall, we've had some fun there in the old Discord channel, and it's been profitable as well. All right. Anything else we should mention as far as Gabriel wants to know Claxton versus Nurkic. That's I like both those guys.
First, I'll clarify for you. It's Henry Jokaru. Just in case you wanted to know, it's Henry Jokaru. I'd say Clayton, or I'd say Nurkic. Let's go Nurkic.
I think it's so close that it depends upon what the rest of my lineup looks like. I don't know, but I like them both. Whatever's left, and their salary is, I think. Isn't Nurkic a little bit more than Claxton, if I'm not mistaken? I believe he is. We have several more late games. We got crunch time coming in about 20 minutes or so. We got Squirrel Patrol. You got TJ as well as Taylor Smith. Let's see. Let's talk about 3 games. We got plenty of time. Celtics, Denver. I believe this is the back half of the TNT doubleheader. This is a potential live NBA Finals preview. Denver at home versus Boston, 220.5. That is the total. Boston is a 1-point favorite here at Denver. Jaylen Brown is questionable. We don't know. We're not really sure how this is going to go down. He's the only person that matters here for Boston that's questionable, and Denver is fully healthy. Vlatko Kankar is out, but that does not. I wish him well. I hope he's not hurting, but does not matter for our purposes. If Brown doesn't go, almost definitely we would see Horford jump into the starting lineup there for Boston. Is this one of those, the old school, looks like a more fun game just for entertainment purposes as opposed to playing it for DFS? Boston fully healthy, Denver fully healthy. Well, again, we don't know about Jaylen Brown. We can fire up the if-then stuff here, but there's no really great matchup here that's popping. There's no great price. It's just not a great DFS game. Of course, it can go off and things can happen. We can get overtime. We can get double overtime. Those things happen too. But for me right now, there's no priorities. Is that kind of how you feel as well?
There is absolutely no priorities in this game. Number one, this should be a great real-life game. So it should be really fun to watch. Yeah, but for DFS, the prices are more or less appropriate, except the one guy that kind of maybe Porzingis is 7,400 on DraftKings, which is a really good price for him. He's 84 on FanDuel. That should tell you something right there.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't price him right. So, and my guess is FanDuel looks a little bit more accurate. So that makes the DraftKings price really good. Jaylen Brown's got a pelvis. He's got a pelvis, Dean. I don't know what's going on.
Did you play with a pelvis?
Too many thrusts, I guess. I don't know what he's doing over there, but no, I've never had a pelvis injury. I'm pretty respectful of my pelvis over my athletic career. Had a lot of different injuries. I had a lot of different injuries, but not a pelvis. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Like Jokic could go off, Tatum could go off. It's going to be really competitive. Good game. Jamal Murray, does well in these good games. The Denver. The other people for Denver, the Porter, Gordon, KCP, probably pass on them. They're priced appropriately. I don't think that's where you want to go. You could always Drew and Derek White are actually priced pretty good. If you think going to get a full run out of them and all that good stuff, they're not bad. But man, yeah, it's tough to do anything in this game. And then you look up at the end of it, and it's like coming down to the wire. It's 1 point, tons of scoring, and you've probably lost to a game stack here of this, but. Right now, Porzingis is the only one that really jumps out to me.
Ownership-wise, nobody getting more than the 11%. Currently, Jamal Murray. I would say he's got the best matchup. You're going to like Murray versus Joker. The Joker matchup proof, of course, but like just the way you attack Boston, Murray's got a better shot to get there. But yeah, I'm never going to tell people not to play Joker. And if I'm making 6 or 7 lineups, I might get one just because, his ceiling is insane. Porzingis, you mentioned him about 10% or so. White about 9%. White would also benefit if we lose Brown. So, again, keep your eye on that. Tatum, you can always play Tatum. But, there's really nothing about this matchup that says we should play Tatum today outside of, he's going to be low owned. And theoretically, he has a ceiling to put up 65 or 70. So, but we shall move on. There are 2 games left and about 15 minutes or so till we get to crunch time. Plenty of time to knock this out, maybe even answer some questions from chat. Another 10 o'clock game is the Bulls. The Bulls are in the back half of a back-to-back, and they're traveling, not a ton of travel, from Utah to Golden State. But they are 8-point dogs here at Golden State. 223 is the total. Who's in and who's out? We're expecting Torrey Craig to possibly come back tonight. I think he was the guy that sort of started a little kerfuffle last night with about 10 seconds to go off the bench in street clothes. Pretty sure it was him. As far as Golden State, they are fully healthy. We got a fully healthy Golden State team, and that's like for our purposes, that's not spectacular because they will also play, 10, maybe even 11 Warriors. Same deal with like Steph is perennially just like always seems to be a little bit overpriced. And again, you can play Steph and Chicago. I love firing 3-pointers against Chicago. So the ceiling, by all means, Steph can drop 10 threes on them. Wouldn't shock us. But again, you tell me, I don't see any priorities in this game. Ownership is reflecting that. Kobe White was just all over Utah last night, just smashed them, I think, like 6 or 7 threes on their head. Vuk is fine. DeSumo is fine. Caruso in the back half of a back-to-back, not really into that. Again, this is late night whimper. It's not a late night hammer for me. It's kind of a whimper. You like Bulls Warriors, Chubb?
Hate it, Dean. I don't like it at all. I'll say this much. I don't have anybody highlighted from the game. There's just like Chicago, you said back-to-back, and it's not just a back-to-back. It's traveling, and the game last night was deep into the fourth quarter. Like they had to go to the last 10 seconds before they finally iced the game. And DeRozan had to take over the fourth quarter. It's a lot of stress to get on a plane and then go to Golden State, or maybe they took the bus. I don't know. But like,
whatever they take the bus.
whatever they did, maybe they took the rail train or whatever that thing is, the new E-train. I don't know, but it was a stressful game. Lots of energy expended. Now you got to go back and play in Golden State. So don't like that side of it. And then on the Golden State, I can probably like on both hands, I could probably less than both hands the amount of times I've rostered Golden State players this year. Like I just don't, unless they're really banged up, which they're the opposite of right now. Like Curry just never jumps out because he's always in the range with these other really good players. And they just kind of don't think of him in that context. Draymond, like he is what he is. Chris Paul's back now. Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins is back. Kuminga's okay. Like there's nothing that jumps out for this team. So yeah, I have 0 for this game that I'm really interested. I will say this much, Dean. If you were going to do this would be the night for a non-late swap site, DraftKings. This is the one. This is the one. Give me one of these, not just the one where everything locks, like every game is 30 minutes within the lock time. That's no fun for late swap. That didn't do me any favors. Give me the late swap on a night like tonight. Now we're pushing some buttons.
We don't know about Jaylen Brown though. That could change things a little bit. I mean, it's probably not worth playing him. If you were theoretically gonna if there was no late swap, he's not a great play. He's a fine play, like whatever. If you land on him, you're not going to be angry about it, but you're not playing Jaylen Brown, not going out of your way. And the trickle-down effect is not massive, right? Horford gets a bump and White gets some guys get incremental bumps, but we'll talk about San Antonio and Sacramento in a second, but I think we just kind of know what to expect from that game.
Well,
Wemby's already been ruled out.
I wasn't necessarily referring to the people who are questionable tonight. I'm just referring to the fact that it's a bunch of early and then 3 late. Like now I got to stay in tune, to late. Now I got to keep.
You want to check out?
Yeah, I want to check out when the thing locks at 6:00. So this would have been a good slate to give it a shot on and give. So I don't know. We'll see if are they doing it tomorrow, Dean? Do you know that Friday? Or is it a Friday thing now?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see if there's any kind of feedback on that. That's an interesting thought. I've not looked at Friday's schedule, but maybe they are. Yeah. So tomorrow night, I actually have it up in front of me. Tomorrow night will be a good time to do it and drop the last 2 games because there are 6 games between 7 and 8 o'clock, and there are 2 late games: Milwaukee at the Lakers and Houston at Portland at 10 o'clock. So if they are going to do it, that's a good spot, and I would imagine they'd have to drop those last 2 games. Yeah. So maybe they'll do it. I didn't see anything on it if DK is going to be. I think they're just kind of experimenting and trying to get some feedback, and you're never going to please everybody, and people have their different reasons, and a lot of the reasons are understandable. They all make sense and they're personal. And some people want to go out, some people want to sit at their laptop and grind all night and get every possible edge, and I get all of it. So I'm not mad at people. It's the ones that say there's no way it should be this or it has to be that.
Yeah,
it's like
to each Dean, to each his own. A few people want to see Wemby play, and the majority want to get cheaper tickets. So to each his own.
The majority wants to see Wemby play. That you are wrong on that take. The majority wants to see Wemby play. That's just a fact. They're not excited about seeing Zach Collins, although he's going to be the most popular player in DFS tonight. One of the more popular players. It's a good segue, Chop, to the last game, the actual hammer. Well, no, it's a 10 o'clock game as well. It's a triple-pronged 10 o'clock hammer that's mostly a whimper. But the Spurs and the Kings, 234.5 is the total. The Spurs can hang around. 10-point dogs here. The lack of Wemby. We saw Sacramento. I don't know if you watched that Laker game last night, but man, Fox and Sabonis looked awesome last night. That's like when you kind of I think Sacramento is kind of fraudulent, but after that, it's, well, you know what? They have their moments. They definitely have their moments, and they were spectacular. Maybe the Lakers are fraudulent. Maybe they're both fraudulent, and the Lakers are a little bit more fraudulent. Not sure. Or it's just a one-game sample. That's how things go. But the Spurs and the Kings are playing some basketball tonight. Big boy total, 234.5. San Antonio outside of Wemby. Everybody else is healthy and good to go. Well, Charles Bassey, we know we're not going to see him the rest of the season. Nothing new with Sacramento. Same deal. Sasha Vezenkov, he's been out for a while. Continues to be out. Some cheap options for the Spurs. Usage boost to, Devin Vassell looks really good. The one that's, depending on where you're shopping on DK, speaking of the dropping the ball, they even lowered Zach Collins. There was an alert the other day of when he might be out, and Zach Collins was 4-5. Now he's out, and he's 4-3. He's center and center only, which I think is going to – obviously you can roster 2 centers on DK, but He's going to take up so much of that center ownership. I'm playing him. I'm just going to play him, and I'll try to get different elsewhere. Is that where you're at as well, Chop? I know you typically run your one lineup. If you're running one lineup, you're playing Zach Collins, right? I assume so.
Well, depends on if your one lineup has any cash in it or if it's all just big time GP, large field GPP. But I'll be playing some Zach Collins at 4.3. Like, again, the price tags, he's 6.1 on FanDuel. That makes you think. We're $1,800 cheaper on DraftKings. So the 4.3 is interesting. Yeah, I can go. That's what makes this whole game here very appealing. And this is why you can play, like, man, I'm not going to play 5 Spurs. But you could play 4 of them because of these price tags. 4.3 on Collins, 5.3 on Trey Jones. Sochan is 5.1, 4.9 on Keldon. And then, of course, Vassell at 7.3 is the big expensive one, but he's also their best player by a wide margin. So consistent fantasy-wise and probably going to get there again. So I don't think you can go wrong with him. And you could play 3 of these other guys, man. This is they're all so cheap over here. So, you play Zach Collins for me in most of your games unless you're super large field, and then you hope something happens and he gets into foul trouble and people get buried. But I'm playing Collins, I'm playing Vassell. Then I start to have to make decisions between these next cheap guys, which is Trey Jones maybe, or Sochan or Keldon Johnson.
Yeah,
I'm probably the ownership looks like it's a little bit lower on Trey Jones. Probably where I'm at. I think he's a good player also anyway. So something like that. But I think 5 of these guys are in play. I think 4 of them you could play in a lineup just because the prices are conducive for it.
If I'm playing 4 Spurs, and I'm probably not, but if I was, I would try my best to run it back with at least 1 king. I don't think I'm getting to 5. I think 3. I can get the 3. I don't see myself getting the 4. Sabonis should smash here, by the way. I know Squirrel, he's going to be on in a bit, and not the spoiler alert, he'll probably talk about what he wrote about in the expert survey today. In his own personal article. It wasn't the expert survey. But he was talking about, how much significantly worse the Spurs, and you can figure this out on your own, how significantly worse their defense gets. The absence of Wemby and the addition of Collins, it's a bad defense as is that gets distinctly worse. So Sabonis leading the league in triple doubles. He's also got one of the longest streaks of all time when it comes to double doubles. I think it's like 55 or so. The only one that's in question night in and night out is the assists. He got there last night. He got that triple double. I've got to pick my spots trying to bet him to get triple doubles this season. I think he has 24 on the season off the dome, give or take. And Fox looks spectacular. And then Monk got all the revenge in the world against the Lakers last night. And he's been just crushing everybody. It doesn't matter if a team cut him or not. Fat Meat Greasy's got a couple questions there in chat. By all means, load up some questions. We got crunch time coming in about 5 minutes or so, but we do have time to knock some out. Branham, Malachi Branham. I don't know what is, he's in the pool, but he's like more of a, large field, ambitious, probably gets more run at the line if the game blows out. I think you gotta take as far as Branham, Chop. He's not. We're giving him 22 minutes currently as things stand.
I mean, he's putting up some decent numbers, so I can't mark him out of the pool, man. So he's in the mix, but he's not that far. He's not that much cheaper than Keldon Johnson or even Jeremy Sochan for that matter. So it's not an easy one to get to, but I get it. I think with that one, you're hoping that even with the back-to-back for Sacramento, you're hoping for a kind of a blowout here and that you get him on the court more. So I get it. He's in the player pool. I ain't gonna hurt on it. Speaking of the blowout and the factors or the back-to-back, things like that make me want to take the cheaper player of the Sacramento Big Two, Sabonis or Fox. You look at them and they're almost like the projections are going to favor Sabonis. All right, but we look at the recent form, they're pretty equal. You look at what they've done against San Antonio this year in those matchups, against an even better defense, by the way, because Wemby was in there. Like they're basically even. I think those two guys are really close. So I'm going to take the cheaper guy in Fox, and that way you can at least, if it is a blowout, you got a better chance of reaching some sort of value. But it is a back-to-back, so maybe it's not a blowout. You never know. But I'm kind of leaning Fox between the big two right there. Sabonis or Fox, I'm going to lean towards Fox.
It's a back-to-back. It's third and four nights there for Sacramento. Sabonis in the season, 1.49 DK fantasy points per minute. Fox at 1.27. But, you are getting a bit of a discount as well. Fat Meat Greasy, Lively over Collins. Like, no. I mean, if anything, the rumblings are that Lively might be the one that's most likely to get booted out of that starting lineup or have his minutes limited. So I have, basically zero interest in Lively at all. And why do I want to pick on Bam and the Heat anyway? Get different a different way. I have no interest in playing Lively. Looking at just centers in general, and that's going to keep Joker's roster percentage out as well. Kelly O, Porzingis, these are guys who can play at power forward as well. Sabonis. Yeah, I'm going to pull up my rankings because I had a hard time ranking my centers today, and I think it's pretty likely I'm going to have a center in my utility spot. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm probably playing two centers. I don't know if you have a shell lineup, Chop. Like shell lineup these days for basketball, it's usually you end up trashing it because news comes in. It's a fun little exercise, but it rarely holds up. Do you have a shell lineup as is right now?
No, I don't do a shell lineup, but you look at stuff, and I could definitely see. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm going to play two centers, but Kelly Olynyk is a power forward eligible guy. So what does that count? No, two straight up centers, probably. I mean, maybe Zach Collins is going to lock up one spot. I do like Gobert. I do like Nurkic. Porzingis and Olynyk are power forward eligible, so that really doesn't count. So that's why I can't really say for sure two centers. I don't play it like that, but I could definitely see it could definitely happen. Gobert would be the one that I think. Collins a lock, and Gobert very, very close on that radar, man. So it could happen.
We got Butto in chat saying is Field in the Plums play tonight is Jamal Murray. I kind of like the Jamal Murray play. That's the one I'm probably most likely to play on Denver. I'm not sure if I'm playing anybody in Denver, but if I am playing somebody in Denver, it's probably Jamal Murray. Do you have a Field in the Plums play?
There's a lot of good players tonight, man, and we've talked about them, and I think I've highlighted most of them. So let me see. Let me pull one that you kind of didn't necessarily like this pick, so I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm going to go with it as my fill in the Plums, just to kind of be different, maybe. And he's getting cheap ownership, no ownership at all. Yeah. Emmanuel Quickly. That could be a defensively challenged team for Phoenix sometimes, and Quickly is going to take on so much on the offense, And I feel like he could be a really good player tonight. So I'm going Quickly.
The thing with Quickly is I feel like I need to run somebody back on the Phoenix side. I don't want to get too much Toronto without much Phoenix because I think there's a real threat of a blowout here. But, assuming he gets standard minutes, I like Kelly O as well on Toronto. The Agbaji thing does matter, I guess, right? It's a fair bit of minutes that might get thrown away. And I want to see if we lose Agbaji, RJ Barrett, Nwara would become kind of sort of somewhat playable. I don't love it, but he probably starts, although we're only giving him 22 minutes right now. We talk about other players that get in the mix. Grady Dick's already in the mix. He might get a couple extra minutes or so.
Grady. All right, Dean. You talked me out of it then. I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to do it same game. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to give you same game. You can even play Quickly. And the run back, man, Bradley Beal. I think I'm at Bradley
I like that.
Beal. I think I'm at Bradley. He's cheap. He's going to get, like I said, man, if we watched him before this recent time, he sat out for 3 weeks. Right before that, he was really starting to pick it up and get his groove in Phoenix. Then he has another sit out, another setback. And then these last couple games, he's starting to feel it. I like Bradley Beal tonight. This could be a Bradley Beal breakout.
Alan wants to know Kelly O or Claxton on DK. I like both of those. I think Claxton's a little safer. Kelly O might have a higher ceiling because, again, he can get you a cheap triple-double if everything lines up. What's your take as far as Kelly O versus Claxton?
Definitely Claxton is safer and probably has more upside too. So I guess Claxton because, although Kelly O is, he's a very, very interesting. Claxton probably beats him in most categories, floor and upside and all that good stuff. So I'd probably say Claxton.
They're talking about the TJ Warren revenge. Yeah, he's on Minnesota. I don't think he's playing tonight, or I don't think we're not projecting him to play. They did sign him, but I don't think we're anticipating him to actually play.
Remember TJ Warren in the bubble? TJ Warren in the bubble was the best player in the history of since Michael Jordan. Bubble TJ was all. What happened to Bubble TJ, man? He came back the next year and he was nothing, nada.
He had knee problems.
He did have a big injury, but yeah, he was never. The bubble was the peak of his life, I think, man.
I took his powers out of the bubble just like I was from Space Jam.
The Monstars stole TJ Warren's powers. Is that what I'm to understand? Well, you know whose powers I want to take. I want to call about one more time. Is where is
Derek Ringering.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to call out Derek because we're doing our head-to-head matchup, and if you want to participate this every Wednesday, I'll go ahead and drop a tweet. RotoGrinders will tweet it out, and you just got to respond to the tweet and tell me why you want to take me on. And maybe that doesn't do anything for you, but hey. You get the bragging rights, so you get the shout out. That you can't put a price on that, and you also get your choice of a week free of RG Premium. You can't put a price on that. I guess you could, but you can't. And you can't put a price on if you choose the socks. You can get the RG socks instead, or the hat, or the super comfortable T-shirt. You get your choice of any of those if you beat me in a head-to-head matchup. We're going to be running it back next Thursday. I'll drop it on social stuff on Wednesday. I also drop it in the NBA channel. RotoGrinders.com/Discord, the NBA Discord channel. So, just respond to my tweet and maybe you can play next week and get yourself some free RG Premium. With that, we do want to segue to, we have 172 votes and not enough likes. What happened there? Our vote to like ratio is not good. Maybe TJ can fix that with crunch time. Let's bring him on in 3 and 2 and 1. All right, TJ, Taylor Smith, SquirrelPatrol as well. I do want to ask, is our poll gone? Did I miss the poll? Did it close? Did it close on me? Where are the poll results? There they are. The poll results are in. Is anybody have a hot take on this? Do you wear socks in your house or go barefoot? The 4 options are shoes, slippers, flip-flops. That's all like one category. Barefoot or socks? Taylor, TJ, Squirrel, hot takes?
I'm mostly barefoot, slippers on occasion, but no shoes. That's very odd, I think.
Americans always have shoes on in movies in their houses, and I don't understand it. It's so weird to me. I'm definitely a socks guy, or if it's chilly, like in my basement where I am right now in Canada, it's -30 outside. I'll wear some slippers. I'm rocking some.
Oh. To be clear, by the way, just 5% are wearing shoes in our chat. That's just like Hollywood doing weird Hollywood things. And I can attest to that. I went to Canada's own Pepsi's house, and he yelled at me for wearing shoes. And I didn't want to have them on. I just forgot to take them off. But that's very important in Canada. You guys do not like shoes on in the house. Squirrel, you got to take on this?
Yeah, I do shoes. I don't know what everybody else is doing. What?
Shoes in the house?
Wearing shoes? Yeah.
Are you surprised that only 5% has shoes?
Yeah, I just wear shoes. I got like dogs. They're tracing in mud and stuff. Like I don't want to step in that stuff. So.
Well, Squirrel, now are these the same shoes? Are these the same shoes you are frequenting public restrooms in, and then tracking that into your house, sir? Or think about it. Think about where those bottoms of those shoes have been now.
I don't know. I get new shoes frequently enough that I get new shoes more often than I'm in public restrooms. I'll say that.
Must be nice, bro. Must be nice.
You think he's
probably
goes to public restrooms equal part? Yeah, the same as everybody else.
Do you go on an outing? Do you go on an outing for the day, and then when you come home, do you take off your shoes and put on indoor shoes, or do you just leave the same shoes on that you were wearing all day?
That's a good question. I have slippers. I will say that I frequently use slippers, and when I answered the poll, I actually put slippers. But then I saw the ownership, and I'm like, I got to go shoes. 5% I'm going shoes.
Smart money's on shoes. Only 5%. All right, Chop, myself, yourself, we got to get out of here. We got to make way for crunch time. You got TJ, you got Squirrel in his shoes, you got Taylor in his stash. TJ, take it away.
Mic test, check, making sure everybody can hear me because I booted my microphone when I tried to show off my slippers. That didn't work very well, but we're ready for some RotoGrinders crunch time, breaking down tonight's NBA slate. We got 7 games. This is a fun tournament slate for me. I kind of wish that I got to play the $4 100K to first MME tonight as opposed to last night, but still looking forward to breaking it down with 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz, handling cash games. Taylor Smith, how you doing, Taylor?
Doing well. Glad to be back. Yeah, should be a fun one. Not much to wait on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
T from LOC says Squirrel has marble floors and a housekeeping staff, so he probably doesn't even wear the same pair twice. Perspective. That's because helping us for tournaments tonight, we have the very best tournament player in the world, SquirrelPatrol, John Breslin. How you doing, Squirrel?
Good. Yeah, the cleaning crew was actually in here today. So yeah, when I came in from the outdoors with my shoes, I was able to just toss them in the trash can. They did, they took the outdoor shoes to the trash, and I got my new shoes out of the box and put those on. So but yeah, it's a good day, good night for NBA basketball. We have some compelling matchups tonight, beyond just DFS. We have some interesting matchups. So it's a good night for basketball.
Good night for basketball. Good night to take RotoGrinders Premium for a test run. Now you can, with a 3-day trial pass, get access to every sport except NASCAR at the low price of $19.99. There's never been a better time to join the RotoGrinders community, so find a 3-day trial link in the description below, right down there. While you're checking out the description, smash the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Hey, we got lots of Twitter and Facebook viewers now, so if you're watching over there, smash the like button over there as well. And if you're playing lineups, you can use SimLabs. It's the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs. Now you can use it for the NBA. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest type you're playing. Running out of time before lock, quickly built a set of lineups to fill out your entries. Want to see who may be falling under the radar? Use the tool to examine players the field may be sleeping on. All combo and NBA subscribers have access to NBA SimLabs. And finally, check out the brand new props and pick'em package. The experts at RotoGrinders Projections team take our premium stats, comb through the market for any inefficiencies. Using our model, you can easily see which lines are off, where to find them, and how likely the prop will hit based on our tool. You can also try the props and pick'em package, just like Combo Premium, for a 3-day pass. Link in the description right down there. It'll auto-renew after for 3 days. Check it out. And now, Taylor, why don't you give us a little bit of a slate overview today?
Yeah, so the big one, of course, is that Wemby is out tonight. So we're going to have a lot of San Antonio exposure, especially on DK where they're all cheap. Devin Booker's still out. Karl Anthony Towns is out for quite a while, it sounds like. So Kyle Anderson is going to be a focal point tonight once again, assuming he starts. Pirtle and Barnes still out for Toronto. Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas and Ben Simmons all missing for Brooklyn. So I think those are the main ones. We're still waiting on Jaylen Brown, too. He's questionable. That game, I think, starts at 10 Eastern, so unlikely to get that news pre-lock. But that's really the only big one we're waiting on. I guess Baji could be meaningful since he's been playing more lately. But, yeah, it's kind of just Jaylen Brown as the lone outstanding news item.
Why don't you take us through a cash game build position by position starting on FanDuel, then we'll travel to DraftKings and then finish off with some QQs. Go to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat first, then I'll be going to the YouTube chat second. YouTube chat, smash that like button. What do you got for us in cash?
So at point guard, Emmanuel Quickly is the one that really pops. He and Kelly Olynyk are actually cheaper on FanDuel than they are on DK, so taking up less of the cap with the higher cap on FanDuel. Quickly at 8K flat's going to see most of the usage with Scotty Barnes out. Minutes are there. Toronto's kind of a sizable underdog on the road against Phoenix, but the price is good enough to where I think he's a really good cash play. Point guard, shooting guard eligibility is also useful, especially with Trey Jones and De'Aaron Fox being point guard only. Both of them look outstanding too. Fox for 9.5, more expensive than he is on DK, but elite matchup at home tonight against the shorthanded Spurs. I think they're at home at least. Trey Jones, I mentioned San Antonio. He's kind of the one really cheap one on FanDuel. He's 5.5. Not a great source of usage, but still decent per minute. Now that he's kind of established himself again as the starting point guard, I think he's a pretty safe play. Malik Monk, Jeremy Sohan. Sohan, I think, is 6'1" on FanDuel, but he is point guard power forward eligible, which is obviously unique. I think you're more likely to play him at power forward, though. I think that kind of does it for cash point guards. It's a pretty limited pool. Shooting guard, Lonnie Walker, we are expecting to start with a variety of cams out for the Nets tonight. He was questionable, but we got the news that he's officially in, so should be good to go. He is 4,800 on FanDuel with shooting guard small forward, so that's quite helpful. Devin Vassell, shooting guard only, but no Wemby. Should see most of the usage for San Antonio. He's been playing well even with Wemby in. I think he'd be a good play at these salaries. Obviously, with Wemby out, he's going to be outstanding. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson out, Cam Thomas out. Another net to consider. Shooting guard small forward looks pretty good too. Gary Trent, maybe kind of a fringy cash play, would look a little better. Maybe if Abaji's out, but fine either way, just because the minutes have been there. Let's see. Sliding to small forward, Lonnie Walker again over here. Kyle Anderson, like I said, should start with Karl Anthony Towns out. Too cheap for the role. He should be, around 6K, I assume, before long, and we're getting him at 5.5. So solid value here, better on DK. Royce O'Neal and KD. Royce O'Neal should start with Devin Booker out. KD should get a usage boost in the same situation. Elite matchup for them too at home against the Raptors. Bridges, Jimmy Butler, RJ Barrett are fine. Mentioned Bridges before at shooting guard. Let's see. Power forward Kelly Olynyk, another guy cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DK. Looks great. Should start with Pirtle and Barnes out for the Raptors. Anderson, you can play over here. O'Neal, KD. Zach Collins is 6'1" on FanDuel. Much better play on DK. Should start at center, though, with Wemby out. And a strong matchup against a Kings team playing for the second time in as many nights. He's not a huge priority over here, but I think he still is cash viable. Dorian Finney-Smith, another one sub 5K value for the Nets, kind of just a minutes play. The minute should be there for him, and even if he's not very good per minute. And at center, Nick Claxton for 7.5 kind of seems to pop every single night, but no Simmons, no Day'Ron Sharp. Minute should be pretty secure for him against Detroit. Not a good front court there, of course. Yusuf Nurkic, probably more of a DK play too. Olynyk and Collins are also center eligible. And yeah, I think that'll probably wrap it up for FanDuel Cash.
All right, Squirrel, take us through the tournament streets today. What are we going to be doing? And we have 93 likes on YouTube right now. If we get up over 100, Squirrel will buy another pair of shoes.
I really am wearing new shoes today. But anyway, so yeah, the tournaments, I really like, I kind of wrote this in the article in the expert survey. I'm pretty high on the Sacramento San Antonio game. Just like San Antonio plays awful defense, and with Wembanyama off the court, then it's going to potentially be a very fast-paced game where Sacramento scores a lot of points. Sacramento tends to do better at home. So just keeping that in mind, and I will say I like game stacks of that game. I think game stacks of pretty much every game. There's some compelling games. So there's not a lot jumping off the page like Boston, Denver, but it's kind of a compelling game. And it wouldn't surprise me if some players from that game went nuts. So I might forget to mention Jokic and Tatum, but if you want to play a game stack of that game, I'm playing some game stacks of that game, kind of every game. Probably the game I like the least is Chicago Golden State. So I probably just reverse mushed that into going into triple overtime. But going position by position for tournaments for FanDuel, point guard, getting kind of a lot of Jeremy Sohan, a lot of De'Aaron Fox, just because I like that Sacramento San Antonio game, some Trey Jones. Moving away from that game, I don't mind some Dennis Schroeder or some Cade Cunningham with the Brooklyn Detroit game. Getting some Emmanuel Quickly. When I get Emmanuel Quickly, I'm trying a little bit to pair him with a Phoenix guy like Kevin Durant or Royce O'Neal. Moving to shooting guard, just a ton of Lonnie Walker.
Can I cut you off quick because Lonnie Walker is not in the starting lineup? It's Dennis Smith Jr. starting for him.
Okay, so that's interesting. So yeah, we'll see what projections do there. my guess is that doesn't make a huge difference. Although you may want to get some more Dennis Smith Jr. I think I still expect Lonnie Walker to be playing. At a pretty good amount of minutes and like enough to maybe pay off the $4,800 price tag on FanDuel. Elsewhere, shooting guard, like Devin Vassell, like Malik Monk again, like Emmanuel Quickley again. Some can get some Mikal Bridges, and then some Anthony Edwards as well. Small forward, it's kind of either Kevin Durant or I'm probably going for some savings. Maybe I quarter my lineups have Kevin Durant, but I really like Keldon Johnson, like Royce O'Neal. Playing some Aaron Nesmith. You like going to these guys in the mid range. Playing some Kyle Anderson, but I think he's a little bit better priced on DraftKings. Power forward, bunch of Kelly Olynyk, bench of Jeremy Sohan, who's power forward eligible. Some Dorian Finney-Smith, and then just a bunch of other guys. Oh, and sorry, Domantas Sabonis is somebody that I think I want to be over the field on, going up against San Antonio. Like, he might murder them inside. Sabonis. Yes, Sabonis is the one that's a little bit better priced on FanDuel, whereas like the Aaron Fox is a little bit better priced on DraftKings. Then center position, Kelly Olynyk, Bam Adebayo, some Sabonis, some Nurkic, some Vucevic. And then like nowhere near the amount of Zach Collins that I'm playing on DraftKings because Collins is priced up on FanDuel.
I like it. Let's pivot over to DraftKings. Go through a cash build, Taylor. How does Dennis Smith Jr. Affect things at all for you? Is he now in the cash game conversation?
I think he is, but I think he's a lot more viable on DK. He's over 5-1 on FanDuel. On DK, he is 4-3. I think we gave him 30 minutes last I saw. Let's see. Yeah, 30. We took Walker down to 24. Walker's still cheap enough to be viable for sure, but Smith is the guy on DK that's going to be, looks like it's going to be in most optimals over here. FanDuel, just to see, he is getting into plenty, mostly at the expense of De'Aaron Fox. I mentioned the 2 point guards over there, Trey Jones and Fox. Smith and Jones still, or now looks like the arrangement on FanDuel for cash.
On DraftKings, with the news, I wound up with 30% Dennis Smith, 20% Lonnie Walker. What are your thoughts on that for tournaments, Squirrel?
Sorry, what were the percentages?
30% DSJ, 20% Walker.
Yeah, I think that probably sounds about right. For tournaments on FanDuel or DraftKings?
DraftKings.
Okay, DraftKings. I don't know, like Dennis Smith, 4,300 on DraftKings. Like, that's a pretty big difference. I might try to get to some more Dennis Smith, which is convenient because I'm more kind of done with my FanDuel lineups compared to DraftKings. So yeah, I think you probably do want to be getting to some Dennis Smith Jr. For other I do still like playing De'Aaron Fox though. Like, I think that's probably the pairing on DraftKings. I like Dennis Schroeder, Devin Vassell, Cade Cunningham. We've got some really good point guard options on DraftKings.
Taylor, help us sort through some of those really good options. Who are we playing today in cash?
Yeah, so like we've been saying, Dennis Smith kind of looks like the guy now as the main value point guard over here. We have Devin Vassell as guard play on D2. Obviously, it's outstanding with Wembanyama out. De'Aaron Fox, like Squirrel was saying, he's cheaper on DK than he is on FanDuel. Looks really good here. He's going to pop into most lineups too. Quickly is not as big a priority just because we do have Fox right there. They're similarly priced. I think Fox is the more stable play, definitely better for cash. Probably not a Lucas slate for cash, but it is pretty interesting for tournaments. We've seen he's pretty matchup proof. And it's Luka. So yeah, the point guard pool is kind of narrow. It's really just Smith, Fox, and maybe Vassell. Bradley Beal, point guard, shooting guard, looks pretty good too without Devin Booker. I mentioned Vassell at shooting guard. Mikal Bridges, again, over here for 7,100 looks good. Should see almost all the usage or much of the usage for the Nets with the cams out. Dennis Schroeder, another net, looks solid. Probably not for cash at this point, though. Anthony Edwards is 8-8. That's pretty good value on him against Indiana. Pace up spot for them. No Karl Anthony Towns. But I think you're probably paying down more than him at shooting guard, honestly, at this point. Kyle Anderson, again, 4-3 on DK. Awesome value. Eligible at both forward spots. Looks great. Keldon Johnson's only 4-9. We're going to get into these Spurs. He and Sohan, both quite cheap without Wemby. Keldon should see quite a usage boost in this scenario, along with Vassell. So he is definitely a core play for cash. Jimmy Butler, maybe kind of a secondary play. Don't love it. KD is getting into lineups at 9-7. Again, no Booker, more usage for him, more usage for Beal. Kelly Olynyk, Sohan, these kind of guys, same guys we were talking about on FanDuel, honestly look very good on DK. And at center, it's all about Zach Collins. He's 4-3, way too cheap. Definitely playing him. It can be a two-center night, of course. Claxton, I mentioned on FanDuel, use of Nurkic against Kelly Olynyk, and a generally thin Toronto front court looks very good. Rudy Gobert, too, without Towns. In theory, more rebounds to go around, among other things. And Sabonis looks out terrific, so I'm happy to get to him in cash, but he as well might be more of a tournament consideration with Nurkic, Claxton, and Gobert among the kind of mid-range centers.
Squirrel, one thing with tournaments that I've noticed for DraftKings is now that we already had a decent amount of value, we have even more now. So now that I'm getting, 70% Collins, 70% Anderson, 60% Keldon, and 60% Dennis Smith Jr., I find myself getting more than 30% Luka Doncic. Is he somebody that you find yourself getting to more of now that we have this wide range of value?
I don't think I'm getting as much as you, but I do, I think I'm probably like above 15%. I don't like Luka. It's just not a great matchup going up against Miami. If I'm gonna take the savings and really spend up, I'd maybe rather be more over the field on Jokic, or maybe like Tatum than being way over the field on Luka. Just because that. It's just a bad matchup for Luka. And with Tatum, you have the possibility that maybe Jaylen Brown is out. And then Jokic can always just go completely berserk. And then I still do really like, getting up to Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox.
I did have more Fox and Sabonis than Luka, but you've convinced me to bump up my Nikola Jokic shares here as well, because that's somebody I wasn't getting very much of at all. Starting at the point guard position, who are you liking today in tournaments?
So suddenly Dennis Smith Jr., but I still do like De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, and then Smith's teammate Dennis Schroeder is point guard eligible. I still getting some Cade Cunningham, getting some Jamal Murray. There's a guy that's more in the 20% range than the 60% range or the 40% range. With some of the previous guys. Shooting guard. Getting some Mikal Bridges. Getting a lot more Brooklyn guys than I kind of expected, and maybe just more Brooklyn guys on DraftKings than on FanDuel. But Devin Vassell, more Schroeder, some Bradley Beal. Seems like I'm getting a lot more Bradley Beal on DraftKings than on FanDuel.
Who do you like better, just kind of straight up? Because we did just get this question, and I'm finding myself just splitting the difference on them. Beal and Bridges, only $200 apart.
See, so I like Mikal Bridges more, even considering the fact that he's $200 more expensive. I don't know. I'm a little bit down on Beal this whole season after coming from the Wizards, so it won't be a big surprise for me to be under the field on Beal. But I like Mikal Bridges better.
All right, continue your thought.
Sure. Small forward, getting a ton of Keldon Johnson, getting a lot of Jeremy Sohan. I'm getting some Kyle Anderson, but I think I'm probably right around that 50% mark. I said in my article, I'm prepared to be hurt playing Kyle Anderson, and he's probably prepared to be hurt too. He left the game last week, the hamstring injury, and I think then it turned into some kind of hip injury or something like that, so that he was missed the next game. So he has been dinged up. And they probably need him with Towns out, but I don't know. I feel I just have this feeling he's going to be a guy that disappoints a lot of people tonight. But he's just priced so well, and at small forward, power forward, I'm still just getting a ton of him, 50%, just the ownership here. Somebody that I
When
wrote
you're-
about. Okay.
When you're fading Kyle Anderson, are you just fading Minnesota in that game, or are you looking to make sure you have either Gobert or Naz Reid?
So I'm not going to Naz Reid if I don't have Kyle Anderson or anything like that. I mean, I'm playing a decent amount of Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. I don't know. I have a little bit of a sinking feeling with Kyle Anderson. Like he's a guy that often I feel like he's failed in these situations, and and him being dinged up doesn't particularly help. And then another small forward option I wrote about in the article, Jalen Wilson. I still think he's interesting. He's only 3,400 small forward, power forward eligible. He's a guy he's been playing some big minutes. He's not a huge fantasy producer. So I'm trying to be over the field on him. Just gives you like a little bit of a different construction if he finally does something with the minutes. He's a guy that'll could give you some combinations that other people don't have. Power forward, it's a lot of the same guys like Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Kyle Anderson. Getting about 20% Kevin Durant. Trying to get to 10% of Jason Tatum. Just it's not like the best game environment, but it is also a game. It wouldn't shock me if it ends up looking better at the end of the night than it does at the beginning of the night. Then center, just getting a ton of Zach Collins. If something happens and he's not in the starting lineup, I'll readjust. But for now, at 4,300, he's really difficult to get away from. Then the other centers I like, Rudy Gobert, Nurkic, and Sabonis. And then trying to get up to 10% Jokic, similar to the Tatum exposure.
I ended up I had 71% Collins in my most recent build. I gave myself 7% Derek Barlow, just in case of some foul trouble tonight. I think he's the guy that would step in and get some minutes.
Yeah, I think I've got some Barlow 4%, but it could end up being more by the end of the night.
All right, let's take some QQs, starting with the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat, followed by YouTube. YouTube, smash that like button for us. FanDuel single entry. Taylor, I'll throw this to you. Thoughts on stacking the Bulls and Warriors game with a couple Nets and Spurs?
Yeah, it's going to be quite off the board, but single entry, I don't think you need to go that far off the board.
FanDuel GPP, the Minnesota players outside of Slow-Mo are looking criminally underowned. Squirrel, Anthony Edwards, Gobert, and Naz. Got to be great tournament plays, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we don't really know exactly how the cat injury is going to affect things. If Kyle Anderson is maybe a little bit more still hurt than we think, Anthony Edwards or Rudy Gobert could have a huge game and be a tournament winner tonight. So I like the idea of going over the field on them.
Taylor, what do you think about Cade Cunningham tonight?
I think he looks really good. Definitely for tournaments, solid matchup. Not a very high total in that game, but it should be close. So I do like it.
Squirrel, I know you like taking shots on cheapies with high upside, even if we don't know how many minutes they're going to play. And so this is somebody that people have been talking about in chat. I'm playing quite a bit of today as a low-owned contrarian play because I think he could potentially play close game or blowout, and he's been lighting it up lately. Are you getting any Shepherd for Indiana?
Not really. Actually, I played a lot of them last game. Not a lot of them, but more than the 0.5% that he was owned. I'm just not getting to him today. It's a different slate, so hopefully he doesn't go nuts.
DK Cash, Taylor, you want Vassell and Schroeder or Beal and Claxton?
I think Beal and Claxton sounds a little bit better.
Squirrel, you were all over Şengün a couple nights ago. Who breaks the slate tonight at that type of low ownership?
Yeah, I've had 2 good plums calls in a night or in a week with Jordan Poole and Şengün. And I think the guy tonight is going to be Domantas Sabonis. I might try to up my exposure after lock. I just the Spurs give up so many points in the paint, and that's his thing. So I think we could see a 20-20 game tonight.
A FanDuel or DK GPP sticking it with you, Squirrel. You want Monk and Durant or Gobert and Fox?
Monk and Durant or Gobert and Fox?
Yeah.
Say Gobert and Fox.
Yeah, I like that combination quite a bit today as well. Taylor, who's your favorite heavy hitter tonight, Luka or KD?
I'll probably wind up with more KD, but I kind of feel like it should be Luka, so I'll say Luka.
J3 would like to say that TJ has been a phenomenal Roth this week. Thank you so much, J3. I appreciate that. Is Keldon Johnson going to be highly owned today? Where are we coming at for ownership right now on Keldon Johnson, Taylor?
He's going to be really popular on DK. We have him at 24. I could see that being low. On FanDuel, though, I think he's more expensive. He is still 20%, though, for 5.7.
TJ Warren available to make his Wolves debut. You going to get to any TJ Warren, Squirrel?
I don't think so. It adds to my Kyle Anderson concern now.
Switching back to Discord here, we still got a lot of time. 12 minutes left to lock. Jeez, we got to slow down. FanDuel GPP large field. Who are your favorite studs, Squirrel?
So like I said, I like Domantas Sabonis. I think Jason Tatum's a little bit interesting. Like we're kind of ignoring that Jaylen Brown injury, and I think Jaylen Brown will probably play. But if he doesn't, like that's a big deal. And then De'Aaron Fox paired or solo, paired with Sabonis or solo, then Kevin Durant.
We got lots and lots of time. Let's get these questions up. Let's get these likes up. DK Cash, Taylor, how dangerous is it to fade Mikal Bridges in cash?
Yeah, I mean, there are viable alternatives, but he is looking like a really good play. I don't think Beal's a bad alternative if you're looking in that range, but otherwise, yeah, I think Bridges is probably a guy you want.
Also asking if he can fade slow-mo in cash, and I think that's a definite no. We gotta play slow-mo in cash today, especially on DraftKings. QQ large field DraftKings tournament playing 3 Kings and 2 Spurs, Squirrel. He's got 37 left at the utility position. Should he just plug in Trey Lyles for some revenge as a 4th King, or is there somewhere else he can go?
I actually don't mind a Trey Lyles call because he's closed some games. He's played with Sabonis at times. So I'd go for full on game stack, hope for triple overtime or something.
Do you got Lyles in your pool right now?
Yeah, I do. I have some Lyles, not a lot, but if you're playing that kind of game stack and you've got a certain amount left, Trey Lyles is definitely feasible. So
I ended up only with 1 in 150 lineups. I would have rathered a little bit more. DK Cash, Taylor, this is a good one. How do you change your mind and withdraw all of your cash lineups 10 minutes before lock?
Well, I don't think you can do it if the contests are full, so you probably just have to redeposit if you're not very confident tonight.
FanDuel head-to-head, Taylor. Zach Collins, I feel this one's pretty easy. Zach Collins and Mikal Bridges or Jimmy Butler and Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, you're not fading Collins and DK Cash. So
that one's FanDuel Cash.
Oh, one more time then?
Collins and Mikal or Jimmy and Finney-Smith.
Yeah, still the Collins one.
FanDuel GPP, Squirrel, what do you think about Malachi Branham as a punt?
Yeah, I think Trey Jones will be a little bit popular, and I'm not down on Trey Jones, but Branham might be an interesting pivot. So yeah, I'd go for that. I mean, I like that game in general, but yeah, no reason not to put in Branham as a low one guy.
DK GPP Squirrel, Brian Marshall wants to know if you are landing on any Jordan Nwora.
I'm playing a little bit of Nwora because Agbaji might be out. And so I think he's much cheaper on DK. I forget if it was a FanDuel or DraftKings question.
DK.
So DraftKings, yes. FanDuel, not really. FanDuel, I think I'm playing Agbaji with a thought that I'll swap down to Grady Dick or something if Agbaji's out.
Yeah, with Nwora's price tag, I am getting about 7% Jordan Nwora right now. Might try and bump it up a little bit if we get news that Agbaji's out. Might try and bump it down a little bit if we get news Agbaji's in. Maybe that's how I get more Trey Lyles, is if Agbaji plays, make that Nwora to Lyles swap. How does Neesmith look in a FanDuel large field GPP, Squirrel?
Yeah, I'm actually getting some Neesmith. So I'm actually, I'm getting 40%. So Neesmith is definitely in play on FanDuel.
How much are you going to have him on DraftKings? Sorry, I'm making you work today.
Yeah, no, I'm not really getting to him on DraftKings. I know, 10%. So much better positionality and price on FanDuel, I think.
DK, Cash, Taylor, Claxton, or Nurkic?
That's super tough. I feel like I prefer Nurkic, but it's kind of a coin flip.
Going back to Indiana, Eric Johnson's asking about Ben Shepherd. I have some Ben Shepherd. Squirrel does not. And then We Major's keeping it there. He wants to know, he's the same person with Neesmith. He's wondering if he can also play Nemhard.
I don't think I'm getting Nemhard, but I am getting Neesmith. So. And I still always get them mixed up. So
yeah. FanDuel GPP, Nas or Kyle Anderson?
Got to go Kyle Anderson. I think it's like the positionality and price. I think you got to go Kyle Anderson. I do have that sinking feeling though.
Are you getting any Derek White in DK GPP lineups? I currently have none. I'll probably try and get some if Jaylen Brown is out. Taylor, do you have access? Are you able to know off top of your head, whichever one that is? What would Derek White project for if Jaylen Brown sits?
Let's see if I can pull that up while I stall.
And in the meantime, single entry Squirrel, Keldon or Slow-Mo. And then Fontecchio or Slow-Mo.
I think you got to go Kyle Anderson over Fontecchio, but I like maybe Keldon Johnson over Kyle Anderson for single entry.
Assuming they already have Kyle Anderson and Dennis Smith Jr. and Zach Collins. So if you don't have any of these, it's one of those. If you're missing one of them. But assuming you have the combination of Zach Collins, Kyle Anderson, and Dennis Smith Jr. all at 4,300, who would be your favorite last man in on DK at 4,400 or less?
Wait, sorry. What was the question?
So,
was that to me?
Who's your favorite last man in on DraftKings at 4,400 or less? Assuming they have Anderson, Smith, and Collins, because it's obviously Anderson, Smith, and Collins.
Then I would probably go Fontecchio or like Jaden Daniels.
And then how would you rank those three players? Anderson, Smith, Collins, since they're all the exact same price.
I would go Collins, then Smith, then Anderson.
Taylor, you got an answer on the Derek White?
Yeah, he's up to 35 or so DK points, so he would look terrific.
Are Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker okay in the same lineup in tournament, Squirrel?
Yeah, I think yes in FanDuel, but no on DraftKings. I think Lonnie Walker is too expensive, I think, on DraftKings.
FanDuel Cash, Taylor, Lonnie Walker, or Aaron Neesmith straight up?
It's probably Lonnie Walker, but not a big gap.
QQ, is Naz Reid in play? Yes, he is. Last call for questions, then we might get out of here a little bit early because a few of us have things right after lock. So get your last minute questions in. If not, we will get out of here a little early. I do see a couple people typing, so we will stall. There's 3 minutes left till lock. Make sure you get your lineups in. Smash the like button while you're on your way out. And also good luck tonight. Let's hope you win some tournaments. FanDuel single entry are guys like Kelly O, Isaiah Quickly, Slow-Mo, and Vassell too risky to fade? So that's a hard question. There's a lot of guys there, and all of them are good tournament plays. And I don't think there's no such thing as too risky to fade in a tournament lineup. So I don't think you got to do that. TJ, who does Toronto have left to defend Nurk, or is he going bonkers? They have no one left to defend Nurk. So if this game stays somewhat close, he probably will be going bonkers. The only thing I think we have to worry about is a blowout. DK, Cash, Taylor, Vassell, and Keldon, or Bridges and Sohan?
I think, excuse me, I think Vassell Keldon is the way to go.
Jonte Porter as a last piece. I had him as somebody that I included in my pool, but I got to 0%. Are you getting any Jonte Porter, Squirrel?
No, I'm not. And I literally was thinking earlier today, I wonder if I should look into Jonte Porter, and then I forgot. so he might be a good play. I forgot to look into him. I knew Kelly Olynyk was going to be chalk, and I'm like, yeah, Porter is back with the team. I saw him playing last game. So sorry, incomplete answer.
Kyrie or Curry in a DK GPP, Squirrel?
I don't really like either of them, but probably go Curry.
Is Squirrel doing MMA content tomorrow? Yes, he is. He will be on RotoGrinders today in the morning with Blender, and then Squirrel will be back with Mike for the MMA Crunch Time show, and myself producing on Saturday as well. So make sure you tune into that one if you're an MMA fan. DKGPP, Beal or Vassell, Squirrel?
Vassell.
Raw points, Taylor. Bridges, Nurk or Nurkic?
I think it's probably Bridges.
That's it. We nailed it. We got all the questions. Good luck tonight, everyone. 1 minute left to lock. Get your lineups in on behalf of myself, Taylor, Squirrel, Steve behind the scenes, and the whole RotoGrinders crew. Thank you for tuning in. One last question right before we go. I'm sorry, Steve. I know you're about to hit the button. Taylor and Squirrel, do you typically use Sims as part of your process? And did you tonight?
I typically do not for basketball. For a lot of sports, I look at like the sim output or like optimal rates that we get, like especially like MMA. I found those like to be pretty useful. Basketball, I kind of just do my own thing.
I actually did today. When I'm on shows, I generally do it for single entry stuff. So I did use SimLabs today for SE.
There you go. That'll do it for Crunch Time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you again tomorrow. Peace.